You hear the chiming of the bells, so good evening and welcome. The time is 6 p.m. and so I hereby call to order the February 12th, 2024 meeting of the Lake Bluff Finance Committee. Deputy Village Clerk Drew Irvin, will you please call the roll?
Member Fisher?
Here.
Member Rappin?
Here.
And Chair Ryder?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item of business for our consideration is the September 27th, 2023 meeting minutes. Are there any changes or questions?
I did not have any.
Me neither.
No questions. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
Okay, and no modifications or questions from anyone present? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Agenda item number 3. The next item on the agenda is for the non-agenda items and visitors, and the non-agenda items and visitors, and the Finance Committee allocates 15 minutes at this time for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the committee on any matter not listed on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to address us in person or through Zoom?
Nobody's on the Zoom call, other than staff.
Hearing none, let's move on. Item 4. Tonight, we're reviewing the budget calendar.
Clean up, type.
Included in the packet is the budget calendar for this budget cycle. Does anyone have any questions for staff?
Mike, I'm going to mute you. Okay.
The staff, any questions for staff? Okay. This is just informational, so we can go ahead and move on to the next item. I understand that Bettina has a brief presentation regarding the preliminary judgment budget for the general fund. Bettina, would you please provide your overview now?
Sure. Why is it not?
Hey, Jeff, would you go ask Bill to get that off the screen, please? Thank you.
Oh.
You got it. There it is.
So good evening. Just a brief. I need to mute. I am muted.
You have to.
Mute twice. There we go. Okay, sorry. Just a brief overview of the general operating fund and some of the other schedules and sheets that were provided in the packet. As Chair mentioned, the draft calendar, budget calendar was provided in the packet. Just give an overview. There was a change made to the Finance Committee meeting. Agenda items for today and capital was switched out to March 11th. So structurally, as in the past, there are some funds that are reviewed in the budget, and just to give you a brief kind of overview, just for informational purposes, the general fund, that's what we're reviewing tonight. There are some special purpose funds that include IMRF and FICA and Social Security. The capital project fund that we'll get into detail at the next Finance Committee meeting, the debt bond payment fund, the water fund, which we'll review tonight in our rate analysis, the police pension fund, and the library fund are all currently included in the village budget. Projected revenues from what was included in the packet, year over year, the changes in the percentages are the green line on this chart on the slide. So year over year, we're at 1.1% change at year end, but you could see the blue are the property tax revenues, orange being sales tax, gray home rule sales tax, and state income tax, and then the year over year rate change to the actuals versus projections. The projected revenues that were included in the packet, for the most part, we're really conservative, as we historically have been, and we've been fortunate in some of those off years, that's paid off, and we've had much more revenue than anticipated, which has been a contributing factor to the fund balance and allowed us to do more capital or plan for other projects like Green Bay Road. Overall, building permits usually run about 2.8% of the revenue. Grants typically 0.25, miscellaneous are at 5.5. Property taxes usually at about 22 to 23%. Sales taxes inching towards 40%. Interest still under 0.5%. And other taxes around, I reversed them, sorry. Sales taxes inching towards 30% and other taxes towards 40%. Does anyone have any questions on any of the revenues that were presented in this projection sheet?
Which page does this correspond to in the packet? Drew, can you help so I can see? It looks like maybe 10 of
Sorry.
37 is what it,
Sorry, I'm not looking at that, but I can get it there. Sorry.
I didn't realize it would instantly share my page. Nice.
it's just,
No. Do you have it, Drew, or no?
1 second.
Okay.
Almost there.
Should be the first attachment after the memo, the first page.
yeah, it looks like it, property taxes, other taxes. Maybe-
I'd condense this a little, so all the detail behind licenses and charges for service and forfeiture, and fines and forfeitures is kind of condensed into the summary total line
Yeah,
instead of
I
expanding it all.
see what it
Yeah, it's
corresponds to.
page 10 of 37.
10, okay.
Yep.
10 of 37. And when you look at this, where would you say the biggest changes are from what was projected to what is actual?
Sure, so biggest current changes lie in sales tax, home rule tax, and interest. I mean, those are really the three that have gone beyond what we expected in the past 2 years.
As far as the out years, really the projection for the outlook is, there's nothing shocking or dramatic in this.
No.
We are predicting kind of steady growth in those two categories. Probably the most, I want to say unusual, but slightly different is like the PPRT money.
Right,
Okay,
So
so-
PPRT is actually the state's looking at reallocating how that's calculated and reducing PPRT and kind of reallocating it to income tax. So you'll see a downward shift of about 33% in PPRT, and it should recapture in income tax.
Okay,
And periodically, you'll see shuffles like that from the state. Just- They,
Yep, for
they
sure.
do that.
what line item is the water fee? Not the water, yeah, the stormwater fee. Is it?
So stormwater fund is not included in this general fund.
Okay,
It's forthcoming, but
Another special, yeah.
special
another
fund.
special fund.
Okay.
We haven't done a whole lot of budget as far as just normal little expenditures. There's no salary being charged there. It's
Right.
basically just the revenue, and there are no projects that are coming that way yet.
Within the next 24 months, anyway.
Right, within the next 24 months. So
Is
pretty
that
much,
revenue more or less what we expected? I appreciate we're not talking about it
yes,
tonight.
we're about at 500,000,
And then that's what,
and we expected between 850 and 900,000
For the year.
for the year. For, a full 12-month period, not the fiscal year.
And Bettina, on the sales tax, it looks like in the actual for 22-23 was really strong at 3.8, and then we were conservative in budgeting at 3.25,
Right.
and we have now forecasting it to being very strong, and it looks like next year, you're not going to take as conservative an approach on sales tax.
No. Historically, we've taken that conservative approach, and it's never met that expectation, like the last 4 years. So Drew and I reviewed it and decided not to play it as conservative as we had in the past. The strongest sector in that whole is obviously the automobile tax, being like 60% of the sales tax that we get. and it's been flourishing.
Hopefully that
know,
lack of conservatism
Right.
is okay.
Doesn't come
Of course, we'll look at it, and if we need to, we can adjust, you
Yeah.
know. But, yeah, we've increased the expectation.
Thanks.
Sure. Oh, sorry. So general fund balances overall, historically, the blue lines for 2015 through 2020, that's the fund balance numbers that we were at, and a lot of that, those higher numbers above the policy above 50% were to save money for Green Bay Road and the projects that we knew that were out in the future that would cost over $1 million. So we were saving that fund balance numbers. And you can see as we go out to 25 and 24, those projects are coming to fruition. So you see the numbers reduce as we transfer to the capital fund to fund those projects. And those are the predicted numbers that we're looking at for fiscal year 25 and 26.
What happens in 27? It looks like the trend is,
Stops.
Green
It
Bay
only goes
Road.
up to
Oh.
26.
Green Bay Road.
In 27?
in 27, do we rebuild, or are we
Oh,
hovering right at
it's just
50?
for the two-year budget, so
I
I always
see.
only
I
show the
just-
predictions for the 2 years out.
If you had, and so we're not going to hazard a guess as to 27?
You know, psychologically, it's so nice to have that surplus, right, and to carry that surplus. and
Right.
It's
We're
great.
supposed to be at 50.
And then when you see that 50, you're like, okay, what if? What happens next year?
Right.
I don't know, it seems like sometimes these capital projects get pushed back a little bit.
I was gonna say, historically, there's typically rollovers, so in that, or changes to numbers, and in that, you see the number change, and we never quite end up right at 50, where, you can see from the trend, because that's been our goal ever since I've been here for the last 6 years, that we were gonna end up at 50, and
But
we're rolling towards it.
there was also thinking around about 4 years ago, that was during COVID, where you wanted to stay high and delay those
Yes.
projects. So in effect,
Right.
even though you have a policy of 50, 60,
Right.
you're more in the 80%. And since Green Bay didn't
Right.
get done, you actually went up.
That's
But-
true. During those 2 years of
I
COVID,
see.
we actually eliminated transfers to the vehicle replacement fund in anticipation of revenue reductions that never happened, fortunately. And, we've made up some in increasing some of those transfers, but in the outlier years, that did contribute to the excess numbers.
So during that time, as with a higher balance on the general fund, did you discover pluses to that, where it was convenient to have that balance, or frankly, we're good at 50, 60%?
It's never good to carry a fund balance that high, even though it is a nice cushion, and from a personal perspective, if you look at it like personal banking, it's nice to have that in your savings account, but that's not what municipally we should be doing. We should be at around 50 and spending that towards capital investments in the projects that we have, really. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. And the last slide relates to some budget highlights. So these are general fund revenues versus operating expenses in the general fund, just to kind of give a snapshot of where we end up for 24 and 23. And that's really odd, because I thought
Can we go back to that fund balance slide, just
Yeah.
really quickly?
Sure.
So in communities that are, let's say that 70%, 75% of their revenue is sales tax based, they may carry 100% fund balance, because when it's such a variable source that may change with economic conditions so dramatically, that they will have a bigger, purposely carry that, and that'll be their policy. Lake Bluff is in the enviable position of having a pretty balanced revenue stream, with about a third of it, village's revenue for the general fund is property tax, another third is sales tax, and the other third is blended. So that's a good variety of sources, which helps the village.
What was that third one you said? The other third
This is a
is,
blend of other revenue, miscellaneous
Ah,
revenues, building
miscellaneous.
permits,
I see.
state sources. So that helps the village have a more balanced approach, so that we won't have to carry we don't have to carry a larger fund balance, or have a higher policy in that regard. So I just wanted to point that out, and that's probably makes sense to you all, but I've worked in a town that had much more sales tax reliable, and they carry it on purposely, had a bigger balance. So you think of like the Schaumburgs that, didn't even have a property tax for a long time, or Oak Brook, that has the mall, that's their community's revenue stream. So
So each of those third sales tax the most variable, and we just happen to have a lower percentage of variability. Makes sense.
Does make sense.
Thank you.
That was it for my review, but kind of.
I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, and frankly, the meat of the stuff is the capital, right? The village's operations have remained relatively unchanged since 2010-ish, 2012. And so that's why the village actually went to a 2-year budget, because, hey, look, we're not making a lot of operational changes. Most of the swing is capital. And that's what the next meeting is. We do dabble a little bit in that today and get your feet wet a little bit, but that's really the gist of it. The operational changes that are highlighted in the memorandum talk about, we're acknowledging that the board approved that collective bargaining agreement with our police and our sergeants. We're acknowledging that we're having 3 part-time, police come in. The budget doesn't include equipment for them. Transitioning with some actually that stuff's in the IRF I'm quoting now.
No, but it's in the,
Yeah, general.
it's in the packet as well.
But it really not a lot of big changes. Happy to answer any questions, but really the meat of the stuff is the capital. And we did flip-flop. We were going to have a capital conversation today, but we didn't feel like we gave it the look we wanted to give it. And knowing that there's still some unpredictability with the pricing, we wanted to go back and re-examine the entire capital program. And so I think it'll make the meeting in March better, although it'll be a lot.
There was one chart that I didn't quite see. It was earlier in your presentation, Bettina. And I was trying to figure out what the years were, and it had a wavy line and some bars.
Oh, in the actual slides?
Yeah, in the
Are those
slides.
technical terms?
Yeah, the wavy, that one.
Sorry, I'm struggling with my screen. So, Zoom window in front of the tabs when I look at it. Yikes. I can't get to it.
Were those actual numbers or were they budgeted numbers?
They were budgeted numbers on the out years.
Okay, and what I was trying to read was how far out we had that. Was that also through 26?
Yeah, hold on, I can get to it now that I've stopped sharing. I'm at this one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Projected revenue, and so if you can point to the actual, budgeted is 2023 budgeted? So we don't have 2023 actual for fiscal actual yet?
No, I feel like this didn't. Hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second. Because I did have what you're asking.
Either I ask these questions or Drew has to tap dance before we get to our 7 o'clock
Happy to
meeting.
talk some more. We'll talk about the Starcom radios for the fire that are listed in the
Go ahead
memo.
while I do.
So from time to time, so the village is part of a joint dispatching operation that is operated by the Village of Glenview. We're a customer of that, and there has been a transition from a certain frequency to a digital platform. Our police have already made that transition, and now the fire is being pushed into that. And that is because we work very closely with a number of fire agencies, and their radio system is coming at the end of its useful life slightly faster than ours is. And so we will push this as far as we can, but we're including in the budget. We were successful in pushing it off a year with the police. These radios are shockingly expensive. I mean, just unbelievable.
The new ones, the digital ones?
Yeah, any radio that you see police or fire carrying, it is very expensive per unit price. And, but we'll look to, the fire chief's plan is to put together a good, like I'll say, a half of them and then pursue a grant for it for the other half. He's been in consultation with a federal agency that we've had great success for the Assistance to Firefighter Grants Program, and that's the advice he was given to pursue it in that manner. But we'll try to push it as far as we can. But again, we have to go with when our fellow units go to some degree. So it's, again, something that we would rather ride our current system a little bit longer. We're not too far off the useful life. It's only about 2 to 3 years out. I mean, we've had them for, I think, 10 years now? Pretty close to that. And so it's close. It wouldn't break our hearts if we had to spend the money, but we'd rather push it, so.
So where is that showing on the memo?
It's in the programs section, FY25, Starcom radio. That's the, I'll call it the name brand of the system. It's a Motorola product line. Police have had success with it, and all the police in the area are on it now. So, and it's actually we're hopeful that the county will complete its new 911 answering center so that the village will have a choice as a consumer. Right now, we've been purchasing it from Glenview because it's been the highest value for the village. And there's also not many other players in the marketplace that makes sense for us to work with. That may change in the landscape if the county gets theirs up like they think they're going to very soon. So,
How, are we committed to Glenview for some period of
we're
time?
in a multi-year contract with them that expire, I think we have like another,
7?
yeah. So we've got some time left on it.
I had a conversation with the Lake County Chair about these new
County emergency.
that possibility for us, and I know that they want to make it very appealing to us.
Very what? To us?
Appealing.
Appealing.
They want to create a system that will be for the county, and so it might be a way to reduce expenses on that.
How does that impact service? You know, would it be under or overtaxed? And I don't mean taxed, but I mean, will there be slower response
You
times?
can
You know.
size up or size down based off demand in terms of call demand and volume. They do that now. I mean, what we, again, one of the high values that Glenview provides us is that they have redundancy, which is huge. And that we are, we went at the same time as almost all of our mutual aid partners. So that was a big part of it as well. And that, believe it or not, the village is really a contractor. I am actually the chair of that committee that oversees that, but at the end of the day, it's still a Village of Glenview department, so we don't have to worry about the day-to-day operations of hiring those people, dealing with that, and there's a lot of personnel issues in that line of work. The village used to be in that business, and that was, the economies of scale are just not there, so that makes all the sense, the bigger the better, right? So this county coming into this market will be a good thing if they can, provide the services at a high level and compete against the Glenview has an excellent reputation. They've done a phenomenal job for the village and continues to save us money. I mean, we had our little dispatch operations over there when I first came here. We had a couple dispatchers that were on the clock 24/7, and it's there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So there's the updated version, of the chart that shows the budgeted 25, 26 years, and the
so
others are actual, based off the data on the left.
Bettina, why was revenue growing so fast from 2016 to 2022, like the general idea there?
Target came online in 15.
Target came online in 15, and when was the changeover to the dealerships? When Target came online, because Shepherd went away.
Shepherd went away, but with the sales tax, Shepherd Chevrolet at its best day gave Village about $150,000 a
Right.
year. Target's been higher.
Well, that's what I meant, so the
consistently.
new auto dealership, I think, is
Yeah.
doing better than.
What about the 10-year expiration from 2016 and 2026? How much will be the bump as well?
So the bump won't show up in revenue because from an accounting perspective, we post all the revenue to the revenue lines, and the payment for the sales tax incentive is an expense. So you'll see expenses get reduced by about $200,000 to $300,000, somewhere.
That's the answer. So it's about 300, maybe a little more.
Maybe,
It's been-
it depending on the year, it's a little more.
So, yeah, so as a reminder, 50/50 split on the first 250,000 come to the village, the next go to the Target, and we share 50/50 everything above that.
Okay.
And in 2026, that share goes away.
Calendar year 26, so within this budget cycle,
Yeah.
the next one, that share will go away.
If there aren't any questions, we can move to the water
Switch to
fund.
water.
Yeah, let's move to water.
Okay, let's do it.
Exciting stuff.
This is like,
Yeah.
I can't see.
Okay, so moving to our next sub-item of 4, we're going to review the water fund budget and rate analysis. Bettina is now putting up the recommendations and the analysis on the screen.
Right. So these were included in the packet. There were 3 different recommendations that are typically included from year to year. One with a flat, no increase, one with 2.5% alternating, and this year I did one with 2.5% every year, which ended up being the staff recommendation. I know these numbers are small, but
Can you, does it correspond to something in the packet so I can actually read the numbers?
these were included in the packet.
Yeah,
Yes.
my question is what page?
What page?
Yep, give me one sec.
Oh, sorry,
Here, keep going.
going.
Oh,
Page
Did I miss it?
37,
Yeah, keep going. No,
Way.
other way.
37.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
Few more, and you'll see it, it's white.
there
Yep,
it
37 of
is.
37.
Thank you.
Last
thank
page.
you. Okay, thanks.
So the 3 options were 1%, 2%, 2.5%?
No, no increase, flat, 2.5% every year, or 2.5% alternating years.
And what have we done historically?
I'm sorry?
Historically?
Historically, we have done 2.5% alternating. I will say that included in all these projections is the rate increases from CLC Jawa. So that begins next year, and they will increase, they're projecting 5% a year. And in the prior years past, where we were alternating, they were actually declining their rates because their bond debt had fallen off. And now they're looking at other future capital projects and increasing their rates. Not to as high as they historically have been, but still 5% every year rolling out to 2029.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't pin the increase to the rate of increase by Jawa?
A 5% water increase? We've never done that. I could just plot one out.
No. The Jawa rate is the rate that the village gets charged,
We buy in bulk.
Right.
Yeah.
but we only charge a 2.5 increase, so are we losing the delta on that?
No,
No.
the rate that they charge us is not the water rate.
Okay. Got
That's
it.
all.
2 different rates.
But it's part of the whole, it's part of all the operating expenses and capital that are included in there that make up the actual rate that we end up charging.
And this is assuming the village, if you folks remember when we were having conversations about establishing the stormwater utility fund, that there was a steady investment in all the asset types. In the water fund, at that time, we had talked about a $300,000 revolving investment. This number reflects a $400,000, I'm sorry. We had talked about $400,000 at staff. We put in $500,000. Why? Jeff, what is the linear foot to replace the water mains now?
A foot.
So we were getting concerned about replacement, and we know that we continue to have the loss, right? We've talked about that, the water loss in the system. And while that number is shrinking teeny bit, we didn't find that, 7% that we thought when we replaced the water meters. We thought we'd find more than we did. We did not. We continue to monitor the entire system. And we've also added another investment requirement, which is the lead service line replacement program. So that's another action that we'll have to take on. We'll be presenting actually a draft plan at the next meeting also related to that. I can talk about what's happened. So the village is very fortunate in that we only have about, Jeff is estimating today, about 130 lead service lines to worry about. So it's a manageable number. Our current inventory is actually about 15 less than that, because we replaced some, but Jeff's rounded up because he thinks we're going to find more out there than we think we find, but it's reasonable. So, but we would have to, by law, come up with a program that replaces all of them, and it's a little fuzzy as who's responsible for that. Most communities are still trying to figure out who's going to pay for it. The village has a few years to figure that out, and I think that all of this is still evolving anyway. There's still conversations going around about all this, but staff will put together a draft plan. There's a draft plan due to the state in April. We'll show you the draft plan, but probably just to submit it. It's only preliminary plan. Preliminary plans required now. The final plan, which you guys will have to bless, is due in April of 2027. So, but what the village has been doing as a matter of practice is, people, since the act has gone through, we've been advising residents, if they've taken the initiative to replace their lead service on their own, we said, save your receipt. We don't know where this is going to end up. There could be retro, we don't know. But the act talks about if a lead service is discovered, then there's a requirement for it to be remedied immediately. So the village has been paying for those, and there's an ebb and flow to that, but let's say it's fewer than 5 a year we're seeing like that. But a lot of towns are still trying to find ways to say, can we share this burden? And a lot of towns have a lot more, literally thousands, right, they're dealing with, but they have a lot more to deal with. But they're saying between now and some date certain that there's a 50-50 sharing program. And finance committees of this village within the last 36 months have talked about the village just taking it on because it's a small number, bless you. And should we just do it because the economies of scale makes sense for us? And at the end of the day, we're certain to be stuck with it by the state anyway, right? Because there's a drop dead date, was it 2034? Yeah. So it's coming, but should the village just go ahead and do it and take care of it? But the reality is we probably couldn't do 100 in a year. And so the village would still want to systematically plan if we're going to do water main replacement, and we'll try to take care of those where we know we have lead services or think we do, take care of those as part of that work. And then we'll pick off a few here and there that require emergency repair, and so we'll just whittle down over time. And the village has been kind of earmarking ARPA funds that are about $780,000 to do the work. And so that's what we've been plugging in to do that. But we know that it's going to be more than that over time. So.
And from revenue and expense perspective on the sheets that were included in the packet. So we increased the capital of $500,000, and some of the expenses were also reduced insofar as salaries and medical because the allocations for the employees were changed. Historically, a lot of those, some of the public works and admin employees had been charged there in a percentage that didn't really reflect their workflow. So they were readjusted, which actually reduced, when you look at the lines in there, the salary numbers, which is also a positive effect to the balance and what can be spent and contributing to that additional $500,000.
So all that is to say that staff is recommending a 2.5% increase for next year.
Right.
When the JAWA's rates go up in the next few years, then I take it we'll still be able to fund the 500,000 from the Delta, or from, but not, we won't be, and I guess, so that's, yes. And,
To remain.
and so what has happened with that larger Delta that we've had for the last several years, while theirs has remained low and we've raised it incrementally? Is that money being spent?
And what do we
Is
say?
has it been spent on water main replacement, or is it,
Historically, we had a $400,000 contribution in the prior years as we planned for the water meter replacement. Some of the funds came from general into water to pay for it in addition to the bond debt. So you have a bond payment that's also being paid for that wasn't there prior to those years. So that's an additional expense. I don't know, Jeff, you want to speak a little bit to what's changed in the last couple of years?
3 years ago, when they paid their
Right.
mortgage, it went down like 50 cents. So we haven't had this big of a delta.
If I meant like project-wise, are there any significant changes from prior years to the upcoming budget years that you're planning?
Just the cost has gone down.
Just the cost, yeah.
So 2.5%. We're not voting on that?
You would make, if there's a consensus around that, you would simply be making a recommendation to the village board to include that as part of its update to its comprehensive fee schedule, which will accompany the budget this April.
so what we'd be doing was recommending to the village board. So if there's no more questions for Bettina, I can seek a motion regarding that. Is there
Or just
any
an
other questions?
indication? Do you need a motion?
A motion would be cleaner,
Okay.
truthfully.
Okay. Is there a motion to recommend that the village board increase the rate 2.5% from $7.80 per 1,000 gallons to $8 even per 1,000 gallons effective May 1st, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Any modifications or questions?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the recommendation will be delivered to the board. Thank you. And if there's no more business for us tonight, then we will see you at the March 11, 2024 Finance Committee meeting. And so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair.
Chairman.
Chairman.